wild about the shows we saw this time around. Well, let's start with Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is getting quite the adaptation from Kit Williams, who also directed this with quite a lot of flair. Don't you agree, Bina?
Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde is about Dorian Gray, a youthful beauty. He sells his soul to remain eternally young. A painter named Basil, he paints his portrait, which ages but not him. Lord Henry Wotton, an aristocrat, teaches Dorian Gray hedonistic and amoral philosophies, is a very bad influence on him. An innocent young actress, Sybil Vane, falls in love with him and meet tragic consequences. Her brother is eternally obsessed with taking revenge. It's a tour de force performance by Sarah Snook, an Olivier Award winning actress who also recently won a Tony in New York City for the same show. And it's a feast, not a single second when one can take one's eyes off the stage and scream. She plays 26 characters, and which lots of them were pre recorded. And with the help of 5 cameras on stage, and she changes like the speed of light and thunder the costumes, her demeanor, the voice, and her characterization of the different characters. And you feel all those people, all those characters, 26 of them, who are absent, but we never feel that they are absent. They fill the stage. It's a fantastic marvel of cinematology and live action. It's a fantastic, fantastic show. Go see it. Happy, happy face.
Yeah, my review is going to be on Facebook, but I'm giving it quite the happy face.
New York Theater Workshop is presenting Lights Out, written by Coleman Domingo and Patricia McGregor, directed by Patricia McGregor. The play takes place in a TV studio on December 17th, 1957, the last evening of Nat King Cole's half-hour primetime show. We experience what seems to be Cole's fever dream before the taping of the actual show begins. The format allows for constant surprises and many exposures of the rampant racism of that time. One of the great inventions of Lights Out is the appearance of Sammy Davis Jr. as an irrepressible imp, a wild id, to contrast with Cole's super calm, super controlled super ego. The two performers get to ape each other's styles and engage in a competitive tap routine to Me and My Shadow. This has to be one of the most thrilling scenes I've seen on stage. In addition to Sammy, other notable performers appear. A brash Petty Hutton spars with Cole in Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better. Eartha Kitt is provocatively sexy. Nat King Cole, both as a child and as an adult, sings with his dad. This show is definitely not a comforting jukebox musical. It is both more disturbing and more satisfying. I was overwhelmed by the energy and excitement of this show. It's a truly unforgettable, absolute happy face.
At 59 East 59th Street, there are 3 plays going on. Tony Marinelli reviewed 2 of them. Tim Mary and Jim Stolzer's A Special Relationship, future father-in-laws, a New Jersey plumber, and a buttoned-up British colonel culture clash when building a gazebo for their children's wedding. Tim Mary and Brian Dykstra are a winning duo. It's a celebration of father's family and fumbling attempts at connection, and most rewardingly, of the strange and beautiful ways become kin. You'll laugh, you might tear up, and you'll never look at a gazebo kit the same way again. Major happy face. Now he reviews Pride and Prejudice. Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, adapted by Abigail Pickard Price, Sarah Groban, and Matt Pinchas. Marriage, money, and reputation reign. Astonishingly, 3 actors play every role. Captures the elegance, humor, and social stakes of Regency England. Major happy face. This is my review. Jack Claff's Kafka has Jack Claff breaking the fourth wall as himself and other people related to Kafka, including Kafka himself in his writings. It's got a rather scattershot feel to it as he jumps all over the place. One minute he is himself, another time he is Kafka's BFFF, Kafka, and excerpts from Kafka's writing. There was a humorous mention of the terminology of using Kafka-esque. I guess I was expecting to be more about Kafka than about Claff, but Claff is an engaging performer. I went along with it, but I was slightly disappointed in the format. Mixed face. Tony gives it a major happy face and has a lot more on Facebook. Go to Facebook to see more.
Savage in Limbo, a concert play presented by Cali Productions and Rock City Road at the Producers Club, written by John Patrick Shanley and directed by Lola Lopez Guardone. In this 1984 play, a group of seemingly lost souls meet in the purgatory of a Bronx bar on a Monday night. The murky atmosphere is ruled by the proprietor, Merck. He demands that the patrons keep buying drinks. At $3 for a Brandy Alexander, I'm sure I would keep drinking until I became completely drunk. The characters are all 32 and were classmates, but not really friends, in Catholic school. Denise Savage is a virgin who wants her life to change dramatically. Linda Rotunda comes in crying because her long-standing steady boyfriend, Tony Aronica, wants to dump her so he can have sex with ugly girls. The great sex he recently had with an ugly girl who told him all about the Soviet Union makes him want to question and change his life. Merck is very protective of April White, who is emotionally unstable. Sometimes the only way he can calm her down is when he puts on a Santa suit and plays Christmas with her. The skilled young performers bring out the comedy and the pathos of their characters. Umbrialis, as the main character, Denise Savage, well executes some tricky tour de force monologues. While not as polished as some of Shanley's great later works, Savage in Limbo is still very clever and entertaining. Happy face.
The Seven Fingers are back with Shayna Carroll's Passengers, with music by Colin Gagne and lyrics by Colin Gagne and Shayna Carroll. It uses the concept of train travel for the Seven Fingers to spring into action, and boy, do they spring. I'm not sure who was what, but one of the females was tossed and flung from pillar to post. Another twirled hoop rings elegantly around everyone as they jumped and flew through them. This incredibly strong female had two people standing on her shoulders. Another female slithered over the top railings into beautiful contorted shapes. There was a juggler who made one ball too many balls. There was a juggler who made one ball too many balls dance in the air at his command. They did pretzel maneuvers high above the stage on silks and ropes and death-defying slides down a huge pole. I was either gasping in astonishment or holding my breath in terror and suspense. Seven Fingers are one of my favorite troupes. They fly in the face of gravity. They withstand any preconceived notion of circus-type acts. Not only that, but they are whimsical and inventive, and they just make me giggle in glee at their antics. You will never see their likes again. Go see them. Beyond happy face.
The Pecadillo Theater Company, Negro Ensemble Company, is presenting at Theater of St. Clements Ceremonies in Dark Old Men, which was written by Lonnie Elder II and directed by Quentin Turner Davis. It takes place in a Harlem barbershop. The proprietor, Russell Parker, doesn't seem to ever have any customers. The rent is paid by his daughter, Adele, who supports her father and her two brothers, much like her mother did before them. The men seem to think it's beneath them to look for some decent work. when Adele threatens to pull the plug and stop paying the rent, the older brother, Theo, gets involved with the shady character Blue, who may offer salvation for this family or perhaps damnation. Theo makes excellent moonshine whiskey, which will now be sold in the shop. His brother, Bobby, is a wonderful, excellent shoplifter that Blue plans to make use of. Russell used to be a vaudeville dancer until his legs got bad. Norm Lewis is an absolute joy to watch, especially when he tries some of his old dance routines on his tired, old, not fully cooperating legs. He's also great at creating a multifaceted character who is believable in every changing mood. I think also there's an actress who plays a young woman, Felicia Boswell, who has the most incredible false laugh. This is really a wonderful view of African American life in Harlem at mid-century. I give it a happy face.
Here we are with Cynthia Von Bueller. In the past, we've seen her Illuminati Ball. She's done things about Houdini, Ziegfeld Midnight Frolics, Speakeasy Dollhouse, and now you're having a graphic novel release party. So tell us about your latest adventure. I'm so excited because all your events are so much fun. They're immersive. You learn something. You get to get involved in it. You get to become an actress. You get dressed up in costumes. I mean, how did you come up with these ideas in the first place?
Well, did you ever see my first play, Speakeasy Dollhouse? That's what started all of this because it was based on my grandfather's prohibition. He owned speakeasies during Prohibition and he was mysteriously murdered. So that sort of got me involved in that time period, sort of the whole the 20s, 30s, 40s. And I was doing that play for 5 years downtown. And it was just very successful. And it was based on a story. And so, yeah, so that's why I started doing these plays. But I've been doing books all along. So I've been writing children's books and I've been working on graphic novels. So the Houdini show you mentioned was also based on a Minky Woodcock graphic novel called The Girl Who Handcuffed Houdini. So yeah, so this one is The Girl Called Cthulhu, which is about World War II. And since you're coming from a drama background, it's the story of Operation Mincemeat, which is now on Broadway. I actually started working on this before I even heard about Operation Mincemeat being made into a play. And I read a book, and I think it's the same book they read, and I started working on it. So this is the book. It's called The Girl Called Cthulhu, and it takes place in the 20s and 40s. There's like a big time gap between. It goes right from the 20s to the 40s. So, but it does take place, and I did a lot of research about World War II and about Operation Mincemeat, things that are not even in the play or the original story.
It's a musical. So yours is not a musical though, is it?
No, it's this is a graphic novel, so it's a story with pictures. This is just the book at this point. I mean, perhaps it will be a show at some point, but right now it's just the book, and it is a graphic novel. So you can see that it's all illustrated. The book has not come out yet. It's coming out on July 8th, which is the day of the party on the boat. We're having a book release party, which you're coming to. It's interesting because this is about Ian Fleming, who was involved in, he was an agent. That's how he started writing his James Bond books. He came up with the idea for Operation Mincemeat. And so I was originally writing this book about Ian Fleming, but then I discovered all of these other authors who were involved in ending World War II. So the premise of this book and my research is based on the fact that authors of detective novels and spy novels helped end World War II. Although Minky Woodcock is a fictional character, it's all based on real facts. So if you go to the back of the book, I have letters and I answer like what's true and what's not true. But you remember the core, that's true. So I go in deeper about that. I actually found his sister named Gladys. Minky Woodcock gets a case. She becomes friends with his sister in New York because his sister moved to New York when she was young. She had a baby. She moved to New York, and her mother was raising the baby in Wales, so to make money. So she meets Minky, and Gladys is a real person, and she really did have a baby that she left with her mother. And so in my story, Gladys wants to find out what happened to her brother. Her brother went missing. So I don't know if Gladys ever really went looking for her brother, but that's my story. And so then I go and I tell the whole story of Operation Mincemeat as a detective story, trying to figure out what happened to this body. So it's a completely different approach to it, but it's all based on fact. Yeah, I think they took liberty with it for the musical, and it's a very limited amount of the story. But I really get into the weeds of Operation Mincemeat, and I also weave in other characters, which I like to do, and it's all based on bizarre but true facts. And I actually do make a little bit of fun of Ian Fleming too in mine, because he was kind of sexist, and my book takes it from a feminist kind of stance. So like he gets made fun of a little bit, and you'll see when you read it. You can order it actually online on Amazon, but also in bookstores and comic book stores, and you can pre-order it now. And the book is called Minky Woodcock, The Girl Called Cthulhu. So if anyone's interested in Operation Mincemeat, this is really going to be really interesting to you, because it's a totally different take on it, and it has a lot of facts. This version has never really been told. Like the idea that authors, like detective authors, like Ian Fleming, and then Aleister Crowley, who was this crazy Satanist, he was a detective novelist. He's involved in my story. And then Basil Thompson, he's also involved in my story. Ian Fleming read his book, and that gave him the idea for Operation Mincemeat. So it's all these authors helped end World War II, and I think that that's a really even Peter Fleming. Peter Fleming is Ian Fleming's brother. He also wrote a book that is related into World War II, and defeating Hitler. So it's really a different way of looking at it, but it's also really entertaining, because Minky Woodcock is like this sort of, she's like a fun, sexy, feminist kind of character. So it's like she's woven into it to tell the story.
How did you discover Operation Mincemeat in the first place?
I actually wanted to do a book. I love Ian Fleming. I love like the whole James Bond like series, and my character is also a detective and kind of a spy. So there's kind of similar, but it's a woman. So I was thinking, oh, how can I incorporate Ian Fleming, a true character, into my stories? And so I did my research on it, and that's how I heard about Operation Mincemeat. And I thought, this is a really cool, weird story. And then I started looking deeper into, is there a detective story here? Is there a mystery? And the mystery is, what happened to this body? Like, was anybody looking for this body? He had a whole family. He had a mother. He had two sisters. Maybe they went looking for him. So that's why I dug deeper to find out more about it. So, but I really, the premise of it is about authors. Being an author of detective books, it's interesting to find out that authors of detective and spy novels helped end World War II, which is the premise of this, which is pretty interesting. Minky is a fictional character I came up with to research his, sort of mysterious deaths and crimes, things like that. So she's not real. She's kind of me. She's kind of me being curious about these crimes and looking into them. So she's woven through the story, but everything she's like going through is based on reality.
And she's a real roaring 20s kind of flapper.
Yeah, she is. She is. And so then also I have a friend of mine who's a burlesque dancer, actress. Her name is Pearls Daly, and she is my model for Minky, and she's going to be at the book party. And Aleister Crowley is going to be at the book party. Ian Fleming is going to be at the book party. And, so H.P. Lovecraft will be at the party. Like, these are characters in costume, you know what I mean, who will be at the party interacting with people.
Yeah, it's like you get to learn a little bit of true bizarre history in a fun graphic novel, and you learn facts you don't even know. And it's like, and you can entertain your friends with all this wonderful knowledge you've accumulated thanks to your books.
At New World Stages, you could see Red Bull Theater's presentation of Moliere's The Imaginary Invalid, adapted by Jeffrey Hatcher and directed by Jesse Berger. In this play, we meet an old man, Argand, who is convinced he is suffering from a multitude of maladies. He is attended by and bilked by 3 doctors, all brilliantly played by Arnie Burton, often in rapid succession. Argand wants his daughter, Angelique, to marry Thomas Diforus, the doctor's son who is to follow his dad's profession. This way, Argand will always have a doctor nearby. Unfortunately, Thomas, the son, is like a monstrously overgrown toddler with less than a toddler's intelligence. Angelique is appalled, and she's in love with Cléante, a handsome young man who enters Argand's house in the guise of a music tutor for Angelique. Argand's unfaithful young second wife, Béline, and her boyfriend, the lawyer de Bonnefoy, plot to inherit Argand's wealth. The only intelligent and well-intentioned member of Argand's household is his surly servant, Toinette. This may be the funniest comedy I've ever seen. All the performers are marvelous, and the musical parodies that abound had me laughing so hard I was in pain. The costumes are ravishing. This is brilliantly choreographed high-speed farce that you absolutely must see. I give it an absolute happy face.
Ashley Brett Chipman, Alex Campbell, Julia Sharp, and Hope Youngblood have written Death of Rasputin, an immersive theatrical adventure on Governor's Island. You follow characters around, sometimes getting involved in the action. It doesn't matter who you follow because it is all so much fun as you run around up and down stairs in well-appointed rooms and bedchambers. You can come across arguments, a sex triangle, some impressive dancing and plotting. The actors were wonderful, acting in such close range and practically tripping over us. I really felt like a fly on the wall. They really looked the parts of the Russian aristocracy and the proletariat. Rasputin looked just as mesmerizing as he was reported to be. We were told to wear black, so it was a hoot to go to the ferry to Governor's Island and see this crowd of people in black. Since we knew we were all going to the same play, we got quite chatty. Step back in time and mingle with Russian history. Happy Face Plus.
At Theater for a New Audience, you could see Prosperous Fools, written by Taylor Mack and directed by Darko Tresniak. The show is a broad satire of the rich people and they're self-serving, of course, and the arts enterprises they support. In this case, there's a ballet company at a gala presenting a ballet of Prometheus, and we have 2 supporters of an oligarch, a male oil company guy played by Jason O'Connell, and a preening, glamorous female superstar played by Sierra Boggess. The ballet company, we don't get to see much of, but the performers, when they were warming up and when they were making their bows, seemed very lithe and quite capable. Sierra Boggess, for me, was the best thing in the show. She's often, as a humanitarian, accompanied by starving children. There's one who appears with her, and there are a multitude of them on her wonderful costume created by Anita Yavich. I also thought that Taylor Mack's impersonation of Wallace Shawn with his raspy voice was inconceivably hilarious. He also did a wonderful job of manipulating the puppet legs and the huge mask. I also liked his description of 6 types of comic humor, but most of the rest of the show, and it's quite long, seemed to me overlong and overstuffed. I can only give it mixed faces.
Personally, I found it hilarious for the most part. It did get a bit gross in parts with the oligarch, but he was supposed to be despicable. With all his money, he feels bad that he gets constantly booed no matter what philanthropic efforts he does, and he wants that to stop. Jason O'Connell is a very versatile actor and fits well into Taylor Mack's comedic satirical world. And I agree with Mark that the Wallace Shawn references were extremely amusing, and the dance numbers choreographed by Austin McCormick were elegant. Jennifer Smith as stage manager and the overeager intern Kaliswa Brewster contributed to the hijinks. I admit it could have used a little trimming. Whenever an author is passionate about an unjust cause, they can tend to get a bit didactic at the end. It also occurred to me that Gwyneth Paltrow would have been very meta in the Sierra Vargas part. Especially with what is going on with the defunding and vilifying of the arts, this is a very timely piece, and I gave it a happy face minus.
Sondheim's Old Friends is a review featuring the music and lyrics of Stephen Sondheim. It was devised by Cameron McIntosh. It originated in London's West End at the John Gielgud Theatre with the same 2 stars, Bernadette Peters and Leah Salonga. Among those who have come to the Broadway production from London are Gavin Lee, Joanna Riding, and the wonderful Bonnie Langford. New to the production on Broadway are Kyle Selig and the wonderful Beth Level, who steals the show with a brilliant rendition of The Ladies Who Lunch.
And Kevin Early and many more. And the songs are mostly from Company, Into the Woods, and Sweeney Todd. I was disappointed they left out Pacific Overtures, Assassin, Saturday Night, Anyone Can Whistle, Evening Primrose, and Do I Hear a Waltz, where he did the lyrics. When it comes to Sondheim, I'm greedy and always want more. I gave it a happy face minus. And Lenny, what did you give it?
Happy face, and it's playing at the Samuel Friedman Theater through June 29th.
Because of time constraint, I cut out my cracked open review. You can see it on Facebook, and it's basically about a family with a mentally ill daughter and how they cope with it. All my reviews will be on Facebook. Everything will be much longer on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, because this show, we had to cut out 8 minutes. Our next show is July 12th, and hopefully it will be a lot easier.